Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Allison Turner. I am excited today to bring my Dream Plan Start Grow interview live on StreamYard to several different platforms. And today I am interviewing Noelia Ortiz-Santiago. I used to know her when she was in South Florida, and she moved with her husband to his home country of Colombia. And they have now had 2 kids, and she has recently started her own company. So I'm going to bring Noelia to the stage. Welcome, Noelia. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Allison. Good afternoon.
So I know we knew each other when you worked for an insurance company in South Florida, and you were all into that, and then kind of, I don't know if it was suddenly, but it seemed suddenly to me because I didn't know the back end of everything, but all of a sudden you moved to Colombia. So
Yes.
Out of the blue, and you and your husband moved down there. You have since had a couple of kids, and then you've more recently started your own company. So how is it that you went from, gung-ho, you seemed to be great at what you did as far as working for the insurance company as business development and whatnot, to having kids and then obviously starting your own company?
Well, okay, that was an interesting road. It was a family decision. My husband decided to move back home. He had lived outside of Colombia for approximately 13, 14 years. So his father and his sister have a company, a family company down here. And they were like, hey, come join us. My father-in-law wanted to retire. So it was a perfect opportunity. And we decided, hey, let's give it a try. I get a 3-year visa. So we have a deadline to come back if it all goes south. So we decided to give it a shot. And we have been so happy here that 2 years in, I got pregnant with my first kid. And now I have a second one. We have a 4 and a 2-year-old. And like a lot of people, I feel during the pandemic, we saw the need to shift our mindset or what we were doing before. So I was always working for somebody else. And I saw the potential, and I was an English teacher at the time. And my students also saw the potential of me doing something more. So I decided to go back to my roots, and I did study linguistics in Puerto Rico in the University of Puerto Rico. And I went back to that, not only teaching English and Spanish, but also doing simultaneous interpretation and document translations.
Wow. Yeah. And I think the one thing you said is that during the pandemic, you saw a lot of people that kind of shifted what their mindset was and what their priorities were, which is kind of what I saw even at the beginning of the pandemic. I saw where those opportunities lay, even from like a business coach perspective, on my own, because people were getting laid off. Obviously, people unfortunately passed away during the pandemic, suddenly from all this stuff that was going around, and everyone shifted. I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of people shifted, where they were working remotely, or, either that, or when they did have to go back in person, they're like, I kind of like it working from home. Like I could just spend more time with my family. I get to, whatever it was for them, that was like what their priorities were. And my dog has decided he wants to be on camera today. This is Bravo. But, and I think it's interesting. You also said your students saw the, something in you that was more than what you were doing. So what do you mean by that?
Well, I started out just teaching English at a English school to anybody that would want English lessons. But I started getting a certain profile, and it was professionals, businessmen and women. And they started saying, like, you have such a personality, you're so outgoing, you love meeting people. And I always say that I'm not an English teacher, or I was not an English teacher. I was their psychologist. because we would talk about all their issues, whether it was at work or it was at home, and we would just try to work them out together. Um, and they said, you should be doing more with this. So I started thinking, like, more how? How can I help people? I love teaching. I love having conversations with new and interesting people. I love to learn. What can I do? So I am still teaching. It's my second thing on my plate right now. But I found interpretation and I started going on Zoom webinars because everything was virtual now and it was all so accessible. So I was on Zoom webinars and I was translating for William Ury. And I was like, oh my God, this guy, I saw his book and the power of yes. And what is this? How am I translating for this man? This is crazy, beyond my wildest dreams. And I started getting work from the US Embassy, etc. And I learned about so many different topics and I met so many different people. And I'm always backstage, so people don't really get to know me. But it's still very exciting to me to have a different topic every week that I have to research on. And I have to learn about CSI this week, or I have to learn about psychology. So I found it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, and I think our world really opened up even more. Even though we had the capabilities before, I know Zoom existed, and there was another one that I had used called, I think, Join or Join Me or something like that I had used a long time ago. That existed with, all those platforms existed before. It's like they all came to like the limelight when everyone was locked in their houses and couldn't get out, and now all of a sudden still needed to work or connect with family or whatever it was. Zoom and all these platforms allowed people to still do it. So I think it brought it more, even though the world was open as it was, I think the opportunities have really skyrocketed because people have seen that more is possible. Maybe you don't have to do a full-blown, 800-person conference live. You could do a 200-person conference live and maybe do a stream the rest of it, live stream the rest of it. And like you said, translate, if you have English, Spanish audience or English, Spanish, and whatever audience, translate into whatever the language is of the choice of the person viewing.
Exactly.
So
exactly. I've been a part of conferences that have 6 simultaneous interpreters, and we're doing Portuguese, Spanish, German, French, and it's exciting because there's 200 or 2,000 people watching, and they all get their own preferred language in their ear, and it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and I think my dog's going to start snoring now too. Just got a live
stream. Somebody got bored.
So, no, but I think that's interesting. And you and I talked maybe last week or a couple of weeks ago about how this works, because I know you're traveling some for this as well. So you've been traveling into the United States some, and I don't know where else you've been traveling, but you have people that will hire you and bring you in for a week or some kind of trip. Or do you ever do this from Colombia as well?
Yes, most of my work at first, when we were all at home in the pandemic, was virtual. But then everybody decided that they wanted to meet and they wanted to hug and they wanted to see each other face to face. So we started having live in-person conferences. And yes, I do the whole booth with the little microphone and the radio thing. We do it a lot in Colombia. There's a lot of spaces here for that in Cali, in Cartagena. People love going to Cartagena because it's sunny and there's beaches. I've also been to Puerto Rico because it's sunny and there's beaches as well. And in the US, I've gone to Denver, Colorado, San Diego, California. I don't even remember anymore. Texas, Maryland. wherever there's a conference and people need me to be there with them, because it's kind of a concierge service. We don't only do the interpretation for the conference, but we go with our client and we give them that extra value, that added value to having someone that is going to interpret for them when they get to the front desk at the hotel, and it's exciting because the same thing, I get to go to new places, I get to experience new things that I don't know anything about before the client contacts me. Hey, I'm going to this conference and it's about, I don't know, pediatrics. And I said, okay, so let's brush up on pediatrics, because you have to know the terminology of what you're going to be seeing, right? You can't just go there or find someone. If I can't do it, I have to find an interpreter that is well versed in that terminology. I would never do something that's very IT specific, for example, because I know I lack the vocabulary. But as a team, we are a lot of freelance interpreters, and we work together and we complement each other. So it's been a great ride.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. And it sounds like you've really found kind of your niche, that works for you, where you can have the kids at home, the husband, and still make time for yourself to, travel to the United States or wherever you need to travel to do your work, and then come back and spend time with the kids and the family, and kind of have it all, which I think is what a lot of people want when they go into entrepreneurship. They kind of want everything, something that's a challenging career, a fulfilling career, being, more flexibility to be able to spend the time with family and all those pieces.
Yes. No, and the experience that it brings, because for example, in my family as well, my husband stays with the kids, but my family's like, where are you going to leave your kids with? Where are you going? So it's been a growth opportunity for everybody. And I've met some wonderful people. The fact that you can connect with your client in that way, when we're talking about the in-person interpretation, you spend a whole week with a group of people and they just become part of your family, and they're always like, hey, checking up on you, how are you? Whenever you're in Philly, let me know, or whenever you're in Colombia, come visit. So it's a great network of people, and it's like a referral base on its own. So it's been amazing. Yeah. And getting to see the faces of people, because I'm sorry, I'm here on a monologue, but getting to see the faces of people when they can get their message across, that satisfaction, because sometimes it happens, I'm sure it happens to people who speak English and they go to another country and they want to share this knowledge or these experiences, and they can't because of that language barrier. But I see it a lot the other way around. Spanish speaking professionals and experts that cannot convey that message to an English speaking scenario because they don't feel ready, they are not ready, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the vocabulary. And just seeing that click from one side and the other, it's profound. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. So what has been some of your biggest challenges in kind of ramping this business up?
They still are there. What is my challenge today? No, I've been doing this slowly. I usually jump into things and I get an idea and I get all excited. I'm like, I'm doing this, and I jump. But this has been taking my time. I decided to get a firm to do the LLC thing, like all the legal stuff. I talked to my accountant, which is not something I usually do unless it's April 1st. but I'm trying to get myself organized. I feel like that has been a real challenge. When we were talking before, you had a segment where you said that, why do I forget your husband's name? I should have written it down.
Jack.
That Jack can be very bright and he has these great ideas, but he can't reel them in, and you have to like drag him into doing what needs to be done. And that's what I'm trying to do now. What I'm doing is I'm bringing people in, because I always feel if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. But that's, you have to bring the right people into your circle, and that's it. That's the answer to my prayers.
Yeah. And I think the right people are critical because, when we start out as an entrepreneur and you start a new company, usually you're doing everything. You're the accounting person, you're the marketing person, you're the sales person, you're the implementer of whatever the service is, could be the website designer, you could be the branding person, like all those things. Like that's every role is yours, and you're like, oh crap, now what do I do? So
I was going to do all those things. Right now, I don't have a website because I'm working with a web developer. Like I'm trying to do the right things, but it's a work in progress.
Well, exactly. And I think we're all, no matter where you are in business, like to me, it's always a work in progress because you're always, even like I've been in business for 10 years, but even at the year 10, like I may have different challenges that you do, but I still have challenges because, we're always, I think most entrepreneurs, I shouldn't say all of them, but most entrepreneurs always want to continue growing, whether that's building more staff, whether it's, adding more services, whether it's scaling a business, all those things, we're always looking for like that next challenge. And sometimes you go into entrepreneurship because you get bored. I mean, I've gotten bored in other jobs. So I've, been like, okay, time to go. I've like kind of conquered what this job is. And I need a more challenging job because I just get bored. I mean, I want to keep learning and developing in new areas. So, obviously in business, you're always learning because you're always having different challenges. And then, something changes. I know in January 1st, an accounting person has told me like there's some new thing that you got to file for the IRS. And I'm like, oh, and
you would have never known that if you were doing your accounting yourself because you're not on top of that. That's why you get the accounting.
No, because I'm not in those circles. I mean, it's like, and I know so many things just because it like the network of the people I network with, as well as the people that I hire to do things like an accountant or, I mean, obviously my company does some of my marketing stuff. So, but, in the website side, but that's where it is. You have to have that bigger audience in order to really grow. And, not even audience, that's not the right word, but network.
That network, yeah. Yeah, it is a group effort. And I refuse to believe it. But you can't do it all and you don't know it all. And that's tough for a lot of us to accept. I can learn, to be an accountant and I can learn. Yeah. And when are you going to have time to craft whatever it is that you want for your business, the next project or learn about your current project or develop it or carry it out? There's not enough time in the world.
No. I mean, there's never going to be enough time. I don't know. Time's like a made up concept. If you like talk to people, it's like really a made up concept like that the humanity's made up at some point, they had to like figure out, okay, it's daytime at this time and it's nighttime at this time. And that's kind of like 24 hours or, they created the word hours. So it's like a whole made up concept anyway. So, who are we to say like whether we have time or not? Because if it's made up, then we should have plenty of time.
We should. Yeah.
It's just a matter of like knowing that you're not going to do everything in one sitting like we might want to do. I think most of us are like, I get all this time today. And then, something, the phone rings, something goes wrong on something in your, clients, maybe in your case, your kids, whatever it is. And then the day changes completely. And you're like, where's my time? But instead,
let's reschedule everything.
Yeah. But instead, like, it's really an opportunity because, if we were in a 9-to-5 job where you physically went to an office and, you may not even have the option of like going home to pick your kids up
Nothing.
or do something, you know, if something happened with one of the kids and you go to the doctor. I mean, maybe you may not even have that option. Like now you have the option, obviously, unless you're out of the country, but you know, you at least have the option versus not have the option. So, I mean, I think that's where we do have a lot more flexibility with our time than maybe we realize or we acknowledge, because we're used to this life now versus like the previous life of, okay, I gotta go to work from 9 to 5.
Clocking in and clocking out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what have been some of your greatest successes to date?
Well, I think that being able to balance the work I think you put it best when you spoke about me being able to travel and doing my job for a week and then coming back and being with my family, because at first it was very hard. There were months where I was outside of my house for 2 weeks straight, you know, and where's the balance? So just being able to say, hey, I'm going to pick my battles. I'm going to pick which events I'm going to go to. And that's one of the reasons I decided I want to, you know, not just be a freelancer. I want to be an entrepreneur, and I want to be able to grow this to the point where I can give an opportunity to other people. And I can give myself the opportunity to not be at every single event I'm requested, you know, because you want to do it all. And you want to learn it all, and you want to visit all the places, and it's also bright and shiny, but you have to, right? You have to set your priorities. And for me, I think that's one of the biggest successes, being able to have a successful business or have a successful stream of income and having a successful family life. Because when I moved here, from Florida, I felt like you said, you were doing so well. What happened? I loved what I was doing. And if I could go back in a heartbeat, I'd be in Delray, and I'd be at all the breakfast and bagels and all of that. I'd go back to YPAD. I loved all of it. But at the same time, I was always on the run. I was always doing something. There was always something I had to do at 7 a.m. and something I had to do until 9 p.m. And I had no work-life balance because I was always on the go, always wanting more for the business. And that's something also that we had to consider. My husband and I said, we can't have children. It's impossible to have children like this. And when we moved to Colombia, that was our mindset, where we are our family. We're going to get a dog, probably a rescue, and that's it. No more, because we didn't know what it was like to be able to be present. And for us, it was very important to be present for the children that we didn't have at the moment. So that's when we started seeing, hey, we can do both things. And here I am. That's my greatest success, I would say.
Yeah. And I think you have to be in this country, United States, I think you have to be super intentional. I mean, I don't know, I have a stepdaughter, so I don't have my own kids. I have fur children, but, you have to be really intentional. So even though I came into her life, I think when she was like 11, maybe she was living with, like we were living together by 12, but still like Jack's always been the main hands-on person, because just shifting everything, I was like, wait a minute, what? Like it was difficult. I might pick her up, I might do things like that, but it was just difficult. But I think when you start from the place, like you start having kids with that intention, I think it, maybe it's different. And here, and I've never been to Colombia, so I can't speak for the lifestyle there, but here it's like go, 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 go. And I think there's different parts of the country that aren't so much like that, but I think South Florida is one of those areas that's, go, go, go,
and
go,
in insurance, like everybody and their sister is an insurance agent or a realtor. So it's a very cutthroat environment to be in. And I felt like I always had to be on my A game. And if I don't go to this event, another agent is going to be there and they're going to beat me to it. So it was intense. And here we have some of that. I mean, we do have multinational companies here, and there are some really strict positions. And yes, we do have that. But I feel like my husband being in his family company and me doing this freelancing thing on the side, we can always say no. You know what? Sundays are family days, and we go out to lunch every Sunday. And my husband goes to football every Sunday with his friends, and I get to go with my girlfriends for lunch. And I didn't have that before. And we can plan date night. Like, didn't happen. And in Florida, we were alone. His family was in Colombia. My family was back in Puerto Rico. So there was no way to have like that support group. And here we have his family, which are amazing to me. My family is still back in Puerto Rico. I wish they were closer, but close enough. But we do have that support system. We do have that. And we've set those boundaries as well, which is very important as an entrepreneur, because you can get soaked into it all and wanting to be there 24/7. So it's important.
You see the opportunities, and you see the opportunities to grow, and you're like, oh, let me just finish this one more thing. And next time you look at it's like 6 o'clock at night. And you're like,
and it happened. It happened to me when I got here, because I was still on that mentality that I have to work, to seem and be productive all the time. And then one day my husband sat down with me and he said, why do you need to teach at 9:30 p.m.? Like, when are we going to sleep? I can hear you. I can't sleep either. I have to wake up at 6 a.m. Like, this is not working. So we sat down, we reassessed, and we said, okay, there are some things that we just can't do. We can't be there for 100% of the people. And that's when you start like also setting your niche, because I wanted to target everybody. Oh, anyone who wants to learn English, anyone who wants to speak Spanish, anyone who needs, and you have to narrow it down. It can't be anyone. It has to be a specific group of people.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's important, like knowing who that ideal client is, not only from, you're talking about it from a time standpoint, obviously, and how it impacts, if someone wants to learn at 9:30 p.m. at night, and, your husband wants to go to bed and he can still hear you talking away. That's a whole different story versus, hey, here's my ideal client, and everything else is like outside of this is a no. It could be, your price point may differentiate from some people. Maybe someone wants something less expensive, so they're going to be like, you don't fit by price, you don't fit by time, you don't fit by, just who you want to work with, because ultimately we want to enjoy who we're working with, right? I mean, we don't want to just work with people to pay the bill, because usually they're the most challenging in clients, at least in my opinion, my experience, where I've taken on early in my career, where I took on people because, you needed the money, whatever it was, and it's all of a sudden you're like, I don't really enjoy working with this person, and it wasn't that they weren't really in the niche of who I wanted to work with. Could I help them? Yes. Did I fully enjoy helping them? Probably not, so it's like, how do you focus in on and really be clear? And more importantly, say no. I think that's the hardest thing.
Hard.
You want to help.
Hard.
Yeah. You want to help everyone that you can help.
Everyone.
Everyone
and anyone. And coming like from that, I don't know if it's my customer service background or my Latin Catholic guilt background. I don't know which one, or both, but I feel like if someone comes to me and they need me, I have to help them. There's no way that I can't just say, I can't help you. And it was costing my health too, because there's some points where I felt like I can't even get out of bed this morning. My energy was drained. And you have to set those boundaries. And that's when you start thinking, like, I have to not only say, I'm not going to teach beyond 9 p.m., you have to say, you know what? I have to teach this type of person, or I have to help these types of people, or I'm only going to translate these types of documents, because all of the research that I have to do to translate, I don't know, computer science, it's not worth it.
Right.
It's
Right.
not worth it. Or find someone that can do it for you, and
Right.
either refer them or outsource it or something like that, because you have to take care of you as well. And as an entrepreneur, that is so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Because you don't get that stability of knowing that, oh, I'm going to get my paycheck on the 15th, regardless of what I do, whether I show up for this client or not. That's not how it goes. Yeah. So it's you have to balance that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I think the health piece is critical. And I mean, I always talk about this. I mean, maybe not in every interview, but in a lot of my interviews, because a lot of times us as entrepreneurs, we're so focused on the business, and then you forget to focus on yourself, and if you have a family, you're focused on the family, you're focused on everything else, and you forget to focus on like your own health, and like, you eat on the fly. So you're eating out a bunch of times, and you're going to networking events where they have, wine, cheese,
delicious cheese.
Yeah, I know. And you're like, oh, here's dinner. Like, I don't need to eat.
Exactly. So
I'm like, you're saving me some time. And then you're eating all this cheese and, crackers and things, which it's probably not the most healthy. It's not the most healthy. I mean,
not every day, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I intentionally gave up alcohol like 2.5 years ago, just because I was like, every time I have, doesn't matter whatever I drank. I mean, it wasn't like a problem drinking. Like I never had that where I couldn't stop drinking. I just was like, it didn't matter what. I mean, wine was the worst. I'd have one glass of wine and my sleep was like, because I track my sleep on the Apple Watch, and it interrupted every single time. Didn't matter. It could be beer, vodka, whatever it was. It would just interrupt my sleep. And I was like, okay, if I really want to be at the optimum game, and I never say I won't ever go back and try something again, but for now, that's what works for me. And, and allows me to sleep better and be healthier and things like that. And then I'd feel sluggish in the morning too. Like I'd just be like, oh my God, So, and this week I'm trying to work on like just getting a minimum of 6 hours of sleep 5 days a week. Like that's my goal. Because like during the week, Jack stays up later than I do. I ideally would love to go to bed by like 10, but does that ever happen? It really doesn't happen for me. Because I get up at like 4 or 5 o'clock. I mean, that's when I would like to get up. I've been sleeping a little later now because I've been going to bed later, and I've been trying to get the 6 hours of sleep. So
vicious cycle.
Yeah, exactly. And I've had, I have a little more flexibility leading into the holidays to do that and like stay up a little bit later and get up a little bit later. But like come January 2nd, I won't have that flexibility as much. So I need to like refocus. But it's the same thing where, Jack and I try and spend time together in the evening, and then he often will go back to work because I'm going to bed and he's not ready to go to bed. So he'll go back and work at like 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night and work till 2. And like, cause he's a night person and I'm a morning person. So like we have opposite schedules from that standpoint.
Yeah. So, that's my husband and I too. He's the early bird, and I like to sleep late. Yeah.
And he's done. I mean, he sleeps till like 7:30ish or something like that. So it's not like super late, but it's obviously later than most of the time than I would. So
you have to find that, and if you have a partner, if you have somebody else, like you have to put that all into the mix. It's complicated. People are complicated. Relationships are complicated, and add in a business. It's
super complicated.
You need a whole, team to back you up and try to get everything on schedule, organized, running. And and you can't take it upon yourself. And that was, I think, the hardest thing for me to realize. I thought I was Wonder Woman and I could do everything and be super wife and super mom and super, translator, interpreter. And what you're saying about, like drinking, for example, I would go to all these networking events and there was always a glass of wine. There was always a cocktail for you to have, and it was free. And you're like, okay, let's, have fun with the people.
Oh yeah. I was there with you.
Yes. And you also have to consider that, because it does interrupt everything else that you're doing, your health, your sleep, and your brain power. I started not drinking when I have an event. If I have an event the next morning, because I can feel my interpretation powers drop. I can't find the right word. I'm a little bit, and it's real. I don't know if it's science or not, because I haven't really researched it, but it has to be, because you can feel it, and the dehydration of the alcohol and all of that. It must have something to do. So I've had to cut that out as well. Just the occasional one on the weekends.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's, each of us has to know our own body, know what's the best for us.
Yeah.
And, what we need. Some people need 8 hours of sleep a night. Some people, like, I can function on 4 to 5. Do I function well on 4 to 5? Probably not really. If it's one time, then I'm good. Like, if it's 3-4 days in a row, then not so good. I get to the end of the week and Jack's like, let's go listen to some music on Friday night. And I'm like, I'm going to bed. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm like falling asleep right now. It's 8 o'clock.
To all the music you want.
Yeah, exactly. Have fun. But that's the reality. So, like, if I get 6 hours, like 6 is my minimum kind of thing. And so, like, then, I seem to, like, keep the energy level throughout the week. And then I usually sleep a little more on the weekends. But, that's kind of where, so each of us is different. Some people, I've talked to people that say they need 8 hours. And I'm like, I don't know where the 8 hours would fit into my schedule during the week. But, luckily I'm good with
maybe on a Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. So what have been some of your greatest successes early on?
Like, professionally speaking?
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I feel like getting organized, that I already said, that has been hard for me forever. I feel, since I was in school, I was always top of my class, but very disorganized. So that being able to put things in my calendar and then follow through with them, that's, top of the mountain for me. I did it. But professionally, I feel like it has been being recognized by my peers. Sometimes when I feel like in every career or in every segment, you have people that are just like envious, or, they don't want to include you in the circle or something, because they're just holding it to themselves. And I've made friends in this road, and it's bizarre to me. Like, it didn't occur to me that could happen. And even when I say what most of my referrals and my best business comes from other interpreters, people look at me like, you're so weird. Like, why would you name other people that do what you do as your best referral sources? But they are. And that to me is great, because I feel like they not only trust me as a person, but they see the value that I add to the business. They see how capable and my abilities are. And that is always a great feeling when your peers notice it. Because you can have a client that has never seen an interpreter in their lives, and they're like, oh, you're fantastic. But they have nothing to compare it to, And someone being able to say, hey, hats off, that was great, or you really pulled that off, or you really helped us get this event, rolling. That to me is, I think, the biggest accomplishment.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I would say that too often we don't recognize our own accomplishments. So it took you a minute to, like, kind of get into that question, because you're like, that's a tough one.
It's tough.
But I think we need to recognize, you started the business. So, like, that's an accomplishment for someone when they first start a business. Because how long have you been in business now?
Ooh. If we're talking about all the linguistic services, it's been more than 15 years as freelancer. Because even when I was doing the insurance, I was teaching on the side, because I love teaching. So it's always been, you
I'm in
know,
the back end. But when did you
building
decide
up.
to like really make it, I guess, legitimate or official with the LLC that you created?
This year, actually, I started focusing on interpretation and translation in the past 2.5 years. I would
Yeah.
say pandemic-ish, they shut us down and I'm like, this is it. And but doing all the non-freelance and starting my business, it was this year. I said I have to get all my ducks in a row. I have to get this ball rolling. And this year. It's been a short time. When you said I just started, you are very right.
Yeah. So from an official standpoint, so yeah, you may have
Yes.
been doing a lot of the little things in the past where you did the teaching and whatnot and on the side, but you always had kind of that other revenue source or that other way of bringing.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to let go. I was, it's so hard. Like I said before, I right now dealing with clients, and in Colombia they have up to 90 days legally to pay you for a service. So yeah, I started thinking like, how am I going to survive if I have to wait for 3 months to get something, to get a payment? So it was very hard for me because all my life I had a 9 to 5 job on this. Even if I was doing this on the side, I had that lifeline.
Right.
And it was tough. And thinking, oh my God, if I'm going to hire people, what happens if 1 month I don't get enough revenue and I can't pay them? Like, where am I going to go? Where am I going to hide? What am I going to tell them? That was always overwhelming to me. Like, I can't hire anyone because I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay them. So I had to change that chip and go,
yeah,
I am going to hire someone and I'm going to figure out a way to be able to always pay them. It's just that slight change in the language. I always say language matters, but I would talk to myself in such a negative way.
Well, so I think that's the case for all of us. But yeah, I mean, that slight, like you just said, that slight language change.
Yeah.
And, instead of saying like, this isn't going to work and, this might work. And let me just figure out, because I think we all want to know, like, how is it going to work? Like, what's the step? Like, where am I getting it from? Where am I getting, in your case, where am I getting that money from? If they don't pay me for 90 days, where, who's floating this, whatever. And then when we kind of trust in the process, I mean, I did a whole talk on that where, it's to me like that faith, that having faith that things are going to work out. Like, it's taken me years to get to that point of like, where I didn't have to, okay, step 1, step 2, what are the 4 steps? I need to know the 4 steps before I even like take step 1. Like, forget like
I
me
need to know the outcome before. Yeah.
And I think it, for me, it took me longer just because I'm so type A, and I'm so like, I mean, when we started this business, I started with a business partner. And I don't remember if you knew her or not, but we were only in business together for like a year, and then a year and a half. And we realized very quickly we weren't good in business together, and she left the business. But, but I was so type A. She was like, oh, here's an idea. Let me go. Because I was like, wait. Like, hold on. What's step 1, 2, 3, and 4? Like, how are we going to do this and things like that. And then, so I've learned to let go over the years. I've learned to like, I have to let go. I have to like figure out what I don't need to figure out like the how right this second. If that's where I want to go, I just need to like, okay, here's the intention, and we're going to figure it out along the way. We
can do it backwards or something. Yeah.
Right.
It's not always a direct line.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just having faith that it's going to happen, I mean, and sometimes, instead of like, what if this doesn't happen? What if I don't have the money in the bank account? What if I don't have, like, instead of the what ifing something that doesn't even exist out there, it's not even.
And you stress out about it and you lose sleep about it, and it hasn't happened. And it probably never will.
Exactly. And I think too many entrepreneurs, especially when they start off, so kudos to you for getting that early on, but too many are just like bogged down by that. So they don't really move forward maybe as quickly as they could because they're overwhelmed by some of those challenges. So
yeah,
I think,
but it took me a while to realize it.
yeah.
I just, when I put my foot to my pedal to the metal, there's no turning back. I like following through with what I started, and I go for it. And until I don't see my dream materialize, then I'm not going to stop. So, but yeah, it took me the longest time just thinking about it. What if, and not knowing also the country where I'm at, how the ins and outs work. It was also scary, very scary to me, because I said, like, how does the Colombian IRS work? Like, what do I have to do? Who do I have to hire? I have to have someone in the States and someone in Colombia, because I am a US citizen and I still have to pay taxes to Uncle Sam. So that's also another thing that I was like, why do I have to pay taxes to everybody? Like,
where's my money?
Yes, this is my money. I'm earning my money. So it was a process. But when you just decide to go for it, you have to take it and everything that comes with it, and just go for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where I am right now. Just one day at a time, and I'm just doing what needs to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think it is just trying to figure it out. And I mean, I know even within the United States, if you hire people from different states, there's different rules in different states, and you're like, oh, really? I got to figure this out over here in this, in this state. I mean, this is all within this country, let alone trying to figure out like, okay, I'm incorporated in the United States, but I'm living in Colombia. So now I got to pay taxes to both countries. And how's that work? And do I have to have accountants in both countries? Do I, like all those things? Yeah, I can't even grasp that. Like, I was thinking about
it was paralyzing.
I was thinking about opening a virtual office in another state, and I was like, oh, I got to really talk to an accountant about, like, then do I have to pay taxes in that state? Because Florida is different. Like, we don't have income tax, and even though I don't live in those other states, I'm like, do you have to pay company stuff? I mean, I have no idea. So I'm like, before I do that, like, let me just not jump the gun here before I have this conversation, because I mean, I have my assistants like in a different state. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe I should just open a virtual, like have an address, so you have like a Google listing up there, and
you see so many people do it. Like, it's so simple. Like,
and it probably is simple, but, and I'm probably overthinking.
But you don't know.
I haven't really had time to look into it yet. So like, that's why I was like, let me wait till the end of the year, and then I'll maybe do a little research of like, how does this work?
Yeah, because there's so many, for example, I've seen there's so many digital nomads too. And they have a presence in Europe and South America and the US.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, how do you do this? You make it seem so simple. But I don't know. Because what do I know about? I know languages. That's my expertise. I have no clue about anything else. So that's when, again, you have to hit yourself against the wall and say, hey, you don't know this. You have to find someone who does.
Yeah. And right, you don't have to know it all right away. You just have to figure it out.
Exactly.
Along the way. That's why I was like, well, I'll just wait till 24. And then like if I decide to do it, it'll be the beginning of the year, and I got to figure out by the end of the year what the hell happened. I need to do the entire year to figure it out, instead of like stressing about it at the end of the year, and you're like, oh, do I have to do anything before the end of 2023? So I was like, we'll just wait till 24. So if I decide to do this,
makes sense.
Yeah. So as we start to wind down a little bit, I always ask one question of all my guests, and that is, if you had one tip to give someone that wanted to start a business, or someone that was newer in business, that maybe you've either learned along the way, or maybe you knew going into your business, and I know you're newer into the actual business part, like what would that one tip be?
Surround yourself with the right people. I mean, I'm a part of a networking group. I don't know if I want to talk about the actual networking group I'm in on your podcast. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm a part of BNI, and I was part of BNI before as an employee. I represented the company I was working with, and it was always, it always stood out to me what a powerful thing it is to have a solid network around you, and just having people that know what they're talking about, that are the best in their fields. And that's the key to success, I feel. Surround yourself with the right people, get the right advice from the correct people, because you're going to get burned in the end if you start asking, I don't know, a lawyer about accounting stuff or vice versa. You have to go and knock the correct door for the correct reasons, and you have to have the right people, because if it's someone who's slightly good at what they do, or a little bit mediocre, and you've heard it and you just decide to ignore it because they're so fun to talk to or something like that, like, you have to go to the right people and surround yourself with good people, not only the right people, but good people. Because there are great professionals out there, but then you start seeing that personally they're not as wonderful. And for me it's you have to have the two components. You have to be a good person, and you have to be a good business person, or good at the job that you do. So yes, the right people and good people.
Yeah. No, and I think those networking groups, whether you're in BNI, like I'm in NPI, similar type of groups. I'm also in a couple of chambers here in the South Florida area. So I think, surrounding yourself with other entrepreneurs and like-minded people is key, because then you can also find people that, I've met some of my, good friends in those situations as well. And you can create your own mastermind too, and have those people around you, the kind of the cream of the crop per se, of who you work, like, kind of meld best with, or who
for sure
helps you the most. So
and you learn so much from them also. I feel like my business has grown thanks to what they bring to my life every day, because sometimes you don't even think about an issue that you could resolve, like they're talking about something and you're like, hey, that can be part of what I do, or I can take this out because it's not working. And they help you build this, they help you create what your dream is, bring it into the reality. Because sometimes in your mind, you have so many things that you can't really bring them and land them. Like we say in Spanish, we say aterrizar. So we have to land that rocket, and we have to say, okay, this is what it's got. This is what it needs to go. This is what's weighing it down. This is what's helping it. So we have to bring it down to earth and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. So you have to have those people around you for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And if anyone wanted to get in touch with you, had any questions about your services or any of that, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Okay, so I think that internationally, my email is the best one. It's Linguistika, LINGUISTIKA.services@gmail.com, because I don't have a webpage yet. Coming soon. And also you can follow me on my Instagram, linguistika.services. And my phone number is a US phone number. But while I'm in Colombia, it only has WhatsApp. I don't know if that's a thing. Is that a thing still? Is that not yet a thing in the US?
What's it called?
Because it is WhatsApp.
Oh yeah, we have a WhatsApp.
Because in Colombia, that's like the only way people communicate. We don't pick up the phone anymore. It's just typing in voice notes.
Yeah, we have that. I'm not a huge fan of WhatsApp, but I mean, it serves its. I mean, if it's good from the standpoint where you can communicate with people outside of the country, like, let me say it that way.
Exactly.
But,
so when I'm here,
it's not necessarily good. I'm like, okay, we're in the country. Like, why do we have to use WhatsApp?
Why do we have to use WhatsApp?
you know.
Yeah, no, but I have it for a local number and I have it for a US number, but it only for now, I don't know what happened. AT&T blocked me, or in Puerto Rico, they shifted from AT&T to Liberty and they blocked me. So I only have WhatsApp for the number, and it's 939-639-9675. And it's the +1. It's a US number.
All right.
And that's
So
how you can reach me.
So the Gmail account is Linguistika
TIKA
dot
dot
at Gmail.
at gmail.com. Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
There we go.
There you go. You got it.
I should ask you that before, but I forgot. We'll put it on
It's
there
okay.
now.
It goes to show that we're alive.
Yep, exactly. Going on the fly.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for joining me today. This is my first live stream, and you're my second out of the country guest. I did an
There
interview
you go.
a few weeks
Awesome.
ago, which
Yeah.
was a great interview. But thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. It was a great experience. I was very nervous, but you made me feel very at ease. So that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Allison. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining me on the Dream Plan Start Grow show. Again, my name is Allison Turner. If you have any questions for me, you can go to my personal website, theallisonturner.com, and feel free to reach out to me there. I do have a 15-minute complimentary consultation. So if you have any questions on marketing or business coaching or any of that, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help in any way I can. And thank you again. And I will see everyone again soon.
See ya.